Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. This is the ALCS Special Edition show. It's Carl. I'm joined by Castellani. It's good to see you.
Yeah, man. Long time no see. We were just recording last night. The Final Four is set. I'm really excited about this one. This is a juicy matchup. I wrote a whole blog about this, between two teams that really don't like each other and two teams that are pretty darn evenly matched. This should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you play all season for this moment. You do podcasts all season for this moment. You follow along all season for this moment. I will open up by saying I like the CS. I like ALCS, NLCS more than I like the World Series.
Why is that?
I always have, because this is like the excite. It's like liking Christmas Eve more than Christmas Day.
I get that.
Excitement to the moment to see who gets to the World Series, and I like the fact there's two. I mean, just as competitive as a World Series. Everybody on this team will cut off their fucking left arm to get to the next round.
For sure. And I think especially with the storylines of this particular ALCS being what they are, divisional rivals, first time since 2011 that two divisional teams have played each other in the NLC or in the championship series. That one was in the NL when the Cardinals played the Brewers. So yeah, a lot of hate, not a whole lot of love lost, but a lot of talent on both sides. Should be awesome.
Wow. Sink your teeth into that fun fact. It's been 12 years since we've had division opponents in a championship series for both leagues.
No, just at all. Yeah, at all. It's in either league. Yeah, so that was that Cardinals Brewers one in 2011 was the last time. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that.
Chris, that is literally what I said.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Postseason juice. We were up late last night, and that show is out now. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. It's a reaction real time. Braves, Phillies. A lot of insight into the matchups from that series. We're going to come back for NLCS. We're going to record that show after this. And that should go out, I believe, Friday night, Saturday morning. Stay with us. This will be the first one that goes out, the ALCS. It's the Rangers versus the Astros. We've done a roster wars on these teams. We've talked extensively about these teams throughout the year on the power ranking panel on our Friday shows. Two extremely polarizing teams. Before we get into this ALCS matchup, a huge hat tip and credit to what the Texas Rangers have done, especially in the landscape of modern baseball. Fans clamoring to spend money, be active in free agency. And we've become accustomed for front offices to teach us and tell us and talk down to us about money and spending and windows. And we know the Rangers are like, fuck it, we'll just go get Corey Seager. Look at Marcus Semien. We'll just draft dudes at the top of the first round that can come into the lineup and hit right away. And they've just put together a really wonderful team and have sourced the right pitching at the right time and have gotten what they've shored up their weaknesses where the Orioles couldn't at all. I want to go back, though, high level, 30,000 feet. Really pat the Rangers on the back with this because the Astros are coming to this 7 straight ALCS appearances where the Angels can't do dick with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. The Seattle Mariners are, even though they've been competitive the last 2 seasons, got laughed at the end of the season. The AL West has solely belonged to the Astros, and the Rangers turned it around so quickly. Building a new ballpark, getting the All-Star game, hyping themselves up. They just have fucking gotten after it. And this is what you get now. So if you're a Rangers fan, they were at the top of the American League not too long ago, about a decade ago. Horrible decline, and now they're back. This is fucking awesome. Because this should put hope in other baseball fans across Major League for your front office to go spend money and go get the big free agents.
Yep. With you entirely. I think that you got to give Chris Young so much credit for understanding when that championship window could open. You know, a lot of teams are so afraid to spend until they get good. This is a team that spent before they got good. I mean, they were coming off a 100-loss season when they got Seager and Semien, understanding, hey, Adolis Garcia is here. Josh Young is coming up through the system. We kind of believe in this Jonah Heim kid. They really timed this out perfectly, and they've had bad luck. Scherzer acquired, injured. DeGrom injured. It's not like everything's gone their way. I think they're a prime example of a team that has been prepped and ready for the postseason, despite the fact that as a team, they haven't made it to the postseason since 2016. Good mix of young guys and veterans. They're not going to be afraid of anybody. Whether they win or lose this series, they've shown that there's no deer in the headlights stuff going on here. They are a hungry bunch.
Yeah, kudos to them for being here, right? Kudos.
Yeah.
Because You talked about Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom not here, John Gray. Maybe he comes back this series as some rumblings, but Martin Perez was outstanding for him last year. He hasn't made a start since the end of June. They've really thinned out the starting pitching staff. And as we get into this comparison, I mean, it is really thin. Now, we've done a roster wars on these guys. We've touched up roster wars on this. I don't see too much changing if we want to go through this position by position. I'd rather stay just like a little bit more high level, break it into groups. Let's do catcher first. We'll do infielders, outfielders. I want to go through some of the starting pitching matchups. And then the bullpen, I mean, that's that could be the biggest discrepancy here, I guess, off the top. Mm-hmm. The difference between the bullpens. The Astros do just have a significantly better bullpen.
Yes. Yeah. That will be a very easy discussion, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, let's just do it now then. Is Ryan Pressly the best reliever in this series?
No, Brian Abreu is. Brian Abreu is unstoppable. And I like Pressly a lot. I mean, in terms of win probability added, I think he's like one of the best relief pitchers ever in October. He's been nails the last 2 seasons. But that's the thing. That's the advantage the Astros have, is that the best closer in the series isn't a closer. I mean, Brian Abreu is a stud. I know Neris got popped in game 1 against the Twins. He's had a phenomenal season. This is, like you said, the biggest discrepancy. And, well, look, so far in these playoffs, the Rangers bullpen, which cost them a lot of games in the regular season, has not reared its ugly head. Now, a big reason for that, bizarrely, is that in a postseason in which you would expect a lot of tight games, they've had a lot of blowouts. They've won one really close game. That was game 1 against the Orioles. Give them credit. Chapman pitched out of the 8th. Leclerc came in. They threw out Gunnar Henderson at second on the missed hit and run. Besides that, you're talking 4 or 5 run deficits in a lot of their games. That will not be the case against Houston. We're going to get some very close ball games, probably some low scoring ball games considering the pitching that exists on both sides. That is, and it's Rangers fans know it as well. That is the biggest concern for them, is at what point will that barrier kind of break, and you could see that bullpen that's been so inconsistent for them rear its ugly head again. Hasn't yet. I think it will at some point in the series.
The Astros lineup is obviously so deep and talented, but I do think that the Rangers are much better poised in position right now to go hang a bunch of crooked numbers.
I think so too.
Slightly more explosive. They're clicking on, like everything's clicking right now for the Rangers. So where the discrepancy for the bullpen, it's clear that the Astros have an advantage. Tie or 1-run lead, 6th, 7th inning later. Huge advantage to the Astros. But I think the Rangers are well positioned to jump early in the series. And we'll get to that with game 1 and stuff. But the Rangers have a lot of stuff we can't quantify right now in that clubhouse. A lot of magic and momentum. And they went through rough spells. They went through 2 rough spells in the second half and climbed themselves out of it in both cases. The other thing we'll get to with some of these players, a lot of second half injuries, a lot of second half regression, a lot of slap yourself in the face mid-late September, like, hey, buddy, let's, no one cares you hit 160 in August. No one cares that you're hitting 150 right now. Let's get our shit together. And they've really clicked. So I would be surprised to see the Rangers take a step back in this series and put up duds offensively. I think you're going to see the lineup come out laser focused. Like, this is about as sharp as a team can look going into Houston in the ALCS.
I'd agree that they're a focused team. Whatever, if they do get shut down or they don't come out mashing, it has nothing to do with the caliber of player or the focus on this team. I feel like it's a really determined team. It's a good, like I've talked about a million times. I just love the mix. I love the fact that you can have a great rookie like Josh Young and a guy like Corey Seager, who, I mean, this might be a sacrilege for Astros fans, is the best player in this series. Corey Seager, he just had kind of quietly a historically good ALDS. He reached base 8 consecutive plate appearances at one time. I mean, he's just unreal. So yeah, no, I'm with you completely. I think it's a very hungry team right now.
So behind the dish, and we do this at Rush Wars, go position by position, but behind the dish, I think it's fair to point out that Jonah Heim, while having a horrendous second half, is still notably better than Martin Maldonado.
Yeah, and I think you got to throw Mitch Garver in there as well. I mean, that's a great 1-2 catcher combination. Now, I like Yainer Diaz as well on the other side, but I think that there's multiple positions where I like the Rangers. This to me is one of the bigger discrepancies where I think especially in this series where the Astros are a team that has outpitched everybody in October, you're going to need some pop in that lineup, and you're going to need it beyond just Seager and Semien and some of those studs. Kind of down the bottom part of that lineup, if you get Heim batting seventh or something, these guys can really rake for you. I like the catcher advantage there.
Yeah, when I look at Mitch Garver for this postseason, I see him more of a bat depth guy.
That's fair.
I don't know how much he's handling staff, but I do love a Mitch, and I do like Mitch Garver quite a bit. X Factor. He popped in the DS, didn't he? Yeah, no, he had a really good series. They were batting him like in the heart of that lineup too. Only played 87 games this year, but 870 OPS. And I do agree with you. That is a good point you bring up. When I think of handling this staff, it is Jonah Heim's team. But just having that extra, they kind of platoon DHs. I think sometimes they like Robbie Grossman, sometimes they like Mitch Garver. Both have had their moments so far in the postseason. Yeah, Jonah Heim, defensive-minded catcher first. I mean, like, has had a good year offensively, has grown into an offensive player. Martin Maldonado, basically one-dimensional. White Sox Dave brought it up on the Twins-Astros preview where, like, is there a clutch factor? He has big hits historically, so maybe there's some shit there. But for the most part, he's really there just to handle pitching staff. So I had isolated Mitch Garver as the X factor in a blog previewing the series. I thought Mitch Garver would make a difference. I was wrong. Evan Carter was the name. Evan Carter's been sensational. So let's talk about the outfielders for a second. Kind of a forgettable bunch outside of the right fielders. Like platoons and switching and maybe not forgettable bunch, but as I say that, like it's forgettable.
Lacking in star power, I would say, outside of Tucker and Adolis Garcia. No, I really love Chas McCormick. I think he's wildly underrated, had a great year. But yeah, I think that when you look around the diamond for these two teams, there's a lot of studs, a lot of all-stars, potentially even a few future Hall of Famers. You got to get in that left field, center field area with both of them. You just have good players, good, solid, serviceable players. No one that's necessarily going to stand out, but considering the depth in these lineup, a few guys that could end up making a big difference if they put themselves in the right situation.
So I thought it was interesting that Yordan Alvarez played left field in games 2 and 3 of the ALDS. Yeah. Now, do you know why he did not play left field in game 1 and 4, or why they didn't DH him all of the games?
Was my guess, did Brantley play every game?
Brantley's out there.
Is he out there? Okay, then I'm really not sure. Now, in fairness to Alvarez, and I'm just thinking out loud here, he is not a awful defender. Now, we associate him with being a hitter, which he is, I would say, at his best. He's maybe the best hitter in baseball. But they don't view him as a defensive liability by any means. I am surprised he's not like permanent DH at this point. So yeah, I'd probably, somebody have to ask probably Dusty about the explanation as to why maybe a matchup situation they wanted to put somebody out there in the outfield or somebody at DH. I'm not completely sure, but that's an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, Brantley played 3 games in the DS.
Okay.
So Kyle Tucker's sensational in right field.
He's great.
And he'll have plenty of moments in this championship series. I do see Alvarez as a DH.
Me too.
And they have a significant advantage in the outfield as we line this up. Evan Carter's been sensational, as I said. And that kind of levels it a little bit. Garcia in right field has been, has put up a monster season and is capable of turning a ball game around at any moment. But on paper, the Astros, some of these names are thrown out here. If Michael Brantley, and he looked good.
Yeah.
I had a moment. I was like, hey, this is fucking good for Michael Brantley. I feel like I hadn't heard his name in like 6 years. Now, granted, it's been a lot sooner than that, but he's a professional hitter, consummate professional hitter.
Dude, you're so right. And the thing is, there was legitimate talks about him not playing this year. I mean, the guy played 15 games in the regular season, but there are some guys who are just like that, who no matter what caliber of injury they have, no matter how severe, when they come back, even if it's just in a limited sample size, they'll roll out of bed and hit 290. I mean, that's just who Brantley is. I mean, he's a laser shot out there. He can rip the ball. Always, yeah, I think consummate, like just as good as they come. Not going to be a 40 home run guy, but the last guy you want to face. He's a scrappy player who can still hit for pop. When he's there, even at the age he's at now, I could see him having a really huge impact in this series. I mean, to say he's healthy is kind of a contradiction because he's been injured so consistently, but had a big moment against the Twins in that series. That having him back, it's almost like adding a free agent with like a month left in the season. All of a sudden, you get this guy back who, at his peak, was an MVP caliber hitter. He could really make a difference.
Yeah, above average walk rate, not exactly 2 times, but strikes out less than half is major league average. If that makes sense. So like almost a 2 times walk rate and almost a 50% strikeout rate for Michael Brantley. Over his last 10 seasons, he's hit almost 310. Yeah. 15 games this season, Michael Brantley making a difference. Now, Kyle Tucker will have, like I said, plenty of opportunities with runners on first and third, first and second, 2 outs, runner on third, nobody out. That's just a situation Kyle Tucker's in that lineup, and he's going to deliver. He's fucking awesome, and he's a great outfielder as well. So we talked in the Phillies-Braves postgame about the anxiety playoff atmospheres create and the impact it has on hitters. And then conversely, what that means for a pitcher. Specifically, like how Ranger Suarez, mixing around the zone is very effective against a Braves team that's already down 2-1 in a series on a road. They want to get their hits. They want to get on the board. I want to contrast that against this Astros lineup because I don't think they give a fuck. I think they'd eat Ranger Suarez alive. I don't think there's an ounce of anxiety or pressure or any of that shit. I bring it up because I want to draw a difference and say for this Astros lineup to beat them, you have to overpower them. You just have to go out and shut them down. I know that sounds simple, but I don't think you can pitch your way into soft contact and pitch your way through a 7-game series against this Astros lineup because they're such balanced, patient hitters, so many threats across the lineup, and so many guys that will not compromise their identity as hitters. You're going to see Jose Abreu do something he can't do, even though he sucked this year and he's had a great postseason. You're going to see Alex Bregman swing out of his shoes. You're going to see Kyle Tucker do something. Like, these guys have so many reps in these moments. And so I bring this up because that anxiety there isn't with the Astros. So what you really need is you need Eovaldi to go out and just shove it up their fucking ass. Like, you need Eovaldi game 1 to go out and shove it up their ass, and you need this Rangers lineup to come out and bounce for Verlander game 1 right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a momentum-based team. I think no team in baseball is better when they get out to leads than Houston. I know that's kind of an easy way to put it, but like with that bullpen being what it is, I guess just trying to think to the teams that have knocked off the Astros over the last several years. I know rosters have changed a little bit, but the core is still kind of intact. What I remember from kind of 2019 World Series, 2021 World Series is limiting power will be so important. This lineup is not one that you're just going to have consistent 1, 2, 3 innings against. These guys see too many pitches. They draw too many walks. They put too many balls in play. But I think back to that 2019 World Series. Now, of course, you had Scherzer, Strasburg, these studs going, but there was traffic on the base paths often. And it was about making pitches in high leverage and limiting the power numbers. In the games that Houston lost, I can't remember almost any big-time home runs, back-breaking moments. I think, again, it sounds kind of silly to say, but it is true with a team that with this many power bats, limiting the home run ball and keeping the ball in the park will be the number one thing to look out for here. Now, I think in that way, the Rangers actually have an advantage because you have a guy like Montgomery, who's a ground ball guy. He can strike guys out, but he's more often a pitch for contact guy with that sinker. And somebody like Eovaldi, who misses a lot of bats. I think that actually is a pretty darn good matchup for them. The biggest problem, though, is that they will wear you down. I think Houston's number one goal in this entire series will be, look, Eovaldi and Montgomery are going to go and do their thing. Get them through 5 innings, turn it over to the bullpen. It becomes advantage Houston if it's a close game after 5 innings because you know what the Rangers bullpen's capable of and you know what the Astros lineup is capable of. I think they're going to try to see as many pitches as they can against some of these really good starters and hopefully turn it over to the Rangers pen where I think they can tee up.
Yeah, and to your point, the Astros ranked second this year in the American League in strikeouts. They don't give it bats away.
Yeah.
They grind.
No, and it's been like that for years. Yeah.
So whether it's seeing a lot of pitches, making you battle, I would just go one step further and they just fucking beat you up.
Yeah.
It's not like they're getting in the box being like, I'm going to make you work. I'm going to make you throw me a lot of pitches. A lot of those guys just get in the box like, Yo, dude, if you leave a ball over the plate, I'm going to absolutely hammer it.
Mm.
The Astros lineup, if baseball was boxing or baseball's ultimate fighting championship or whatever, the Astros lineup would be the fighter with a belly who isn't particularly strong looking. You're like, yeah, this guy looks like my buddy from high school. But then when you see the record, it's like, this guy's 38-0 or something. He's got some Brazilian death grip. And then you see the highlight reel, the knockouts. It's really an anomaly. I'm sure at a younger point in that fighter's life, they're all fucking cocky and getting but then you just get to some point, right, where you're just like, I'm just a super badass. I don't have to do shit. Like, this is a bad analogy. But my point is, like, this old seasoned weathered warrior just doesn't, you're just going to knock your fucking head clean off your shoulders anyway. That's who the Astros are.
Especially because time flies in this sport. They're like that grizzled veteran, man. They're like fucking Hugh Jackman and Logan at this point. Like, they've seen it all before, and they will still claw your fucking eyes out if given the opportunity. Because these guys, and I know we go back and forth about this, but I think when we're talking about a team that's been to the postseason been to the ALCS 7 consecutive seasons, there is no deer in the headlights. There is no concern or anxiety. They have been here before. They've been tested before. They know how to beat pitchers and knock pitchers out in October. And so if there's one huge advantage outside of the bullpens that I feel like Houston has, it is just the heartbeat. There's going to be zero fear or pressure felt on them because they've seen this. They've been through this grind a million times in the past.
Now, here's where the discrepancies start to fade away for me, because a lot of this is very clear. The Astros have a better outfield group than the Rangers do. The Rangers have a better catching group than the Astros do. The Astros have a much better bullpen. The infield, this one's basically impossible for me to decide. Altuve, Pena, Bregman, Abreu versus Seager, Young, Simeon, and Lowe. Seager's the best player on the field. Altuve's the last guy you bet against in the series. My brain is in a pretzel to try and pick between these two.
I am too. I don't want to have dead air, so I'm just kind of trying to think out loud about this because I think Seager is the best player of these two outfield or infields, and probably the best player of these two teams. But we're talking depth. I mean, how can you say Bregman, Pena, Altuve, Abreu is second? But I mean, that's such a dominant force in the infield, both offensively and defensively. I mean, I know Pena's had his struggles at points with the bat. He's such an elite defensive shortstop, man. I mean, he really is fantastic. On the other side, you look at what Josh Young's given him. You look at what Lowe's given him. And, of course, that dynamite, $600 million middle infield that they have. It's tough. I mean, I would call this as evenly matched as it gets. It's going to depend on who gets hot at the right time. But I think that the whole championships are one up the middle argument becomes very, very true when you look at who these guys have on their middle infields right now, both offensively and what they can provide defensively. I mean, Marcus Semien, we look up at the end of every year and he's got a WAR in the sixes. He's there every single day. He grinds, a great defender, can hit for power. I mean, you talk about stars. That's really an incredible kind of matchup there between these two infield.
Yeah, up the middle, I like the Rangers more. Shortstop, second base combo, exclusively, I like the Rangers more, although the Astros are third, fourth combo I would want for an ALCS. Over 162, maybe it's different. For a must-win game series, we talked about this too with Phillies and Braves. In the short-term variants, the emphasis on run prevention, because there's so much volatility. Anything can happen. Bad bounce, bad hop. There's so much luck involved that when you're setting up your team, you want to control as much as you can control, and you have more control over the quality of your defense than you do over the quality of your offense. So that's where the only argument I'd say, Jeremy Payne is so good at shortstop. Seager's not shabby. Not shabby at all.
No, he's serviceable. He's not a flashy defender, but he's fine. He's a good serviceable defender. We're talking throughout the entire infield, though. I mean, Bregman at thirds. God damn, man, this one is tough because I like Young, too. Bregman's just, yeah.
Jose Abreu had a great DS.
Yes.
3 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Pito had an awful season. Struggled big time leaving the White Sox. Strong emotional ties there. Maybe a hard time fitting in the clubhouse. Don't really know. I know looking at the data, Jose Abreu had an awful season. What data doesn't say throughout the year, Jose Abreu's approach doesn't change. He's a legendary clubhouse guy in his generation for Major League Baseball. Guys love playing with him. Guys love playing against him. He's such a senior figure in a game and sport. Everybody's trying to be an alpha male. He just commands a locker room. And while that guy's struggling, it's so tough to watch because he's such a good dude. He's putting in all his work. He's not a bozo. He's not a bum. Like nobody wants it more or worse than Jose Abreu. It's like this we went through the same iterations with Jason Hayward when he was a Cub, watching him struggle so much. Like sometimes there's nothing you can do. But then when you get to the DS and you see him pop and it explodes and it clicks, like all that work pays off. And I think he wouldn't give a shit that he had a bad April, he had a bad May, bad June. He is showing up to the field, the 2020 MVP. You know, the guy who should get a statue at Guaranteed Rate Field on the south side of Chicago. Like, that's the guy I see the Astros have in the lineup. And that's a big question mark I had for the Astros going into the postseason. He's like, if they have a dead body at first base,
right?
Like, at what point do you just cut bait? I understand they hit him third or fourth most of the season, middle of the lineup, top of the lineup. They didn't move him down to 8. They didn't shortchange him or anything. This could have gone one or two ways. So the DS has me feeling like you can just completely throw out the regular season for Jose Abreu. I think you can all gas, no breaks, Jose.
I'm kind of feeling that way too, because I also think there's a psychological element that comes with this. Abreu played in the postseason before, obviously in the 2 years with the White Sox. One of those years was with full fans where they lost, ironically, to Houston. But, you know, because he came over late, this is a 36-year-old who is probably in the latter part of his career, who is now deeper into the postseason than he's ever been. I think if you're looking for a player who's probably the hungriest of anyone in this series, it might be Jose Abreu, not just because of the, you know, personal achievements making it as deep as he ever has in October, but I think also with the year that he had. You know, it's one of those things in baseball with a player that talented, and Jose Abreu, having been an AL Central guy, scary guy to face. With a player that talented, you can have a bad regular season and just find it in October. Sometimes baseball's a weird game. It will take guys months to come around. I think he finally has a home in that lineup. You know, they didn't waver a ton. Like you said, they didn't move him down to 8th or anything, but they have moved him down a little bit. I think batting him 6th with the guys, ahead of him. And I think also with Yordan Alvarez being as hot as he is, the guys below him are going to start seeing more pitches. Because I think Alvarez, similar to Bryce Harper with the Phillies, you're going to start getting the Bonds treatment. People are just going to put up 4 fingers, do the intentional walk with him. I think he's going to have some big opportunities in this series to drive guys in. And even during some of his, and I'm using air quotes here, down years with the White Sox, the guy was a run-producing machine. What matters is scoring runs in October. He has the opportunity to do that. I would say, yeah, you brought up Garver. To me, the X factor in this series is Jose Abreu.
Slugged .536 in September and October to close out the season.
Yeah.
By far the highest of the year for him, highest month for him. He's solid. He's an easy guy to cheer for.
I like him.
I should also clear up, he never hit third this year. I said he hit third. He never hit third.
Never did? I thought
About
he did.
80% of his plate appearances came 4th or 5th.
Okay, that's what he
About 80% came 4th or 5th. Sound like Jeff D'Lo in the dozen here. Or 4th or 5th.
I thought it's the Hallelujah song by Leonard Cohen. It goes like this, the 4th or 5th.
That's a reference. We're 1-0 too. Flux is 1-0.
Yes.
Just slide that in. A little dozen. Yeah. Little dozen sneak in. This is the ALCS preview for Barstool Baseball. We're still talking baseball here though, guys.
Yeah.
Jose Abreu is an X factor, and I will give this a pure coin flip. Slight edge to the Rangers. Josh Young was terrible down the stretch. Josh Young was also hurt, came back early from injury.
Mm-hmm.
Eovaldi was horrible down the stretch, came back early from injury.
Yeah.
So there's a number of these within within the Rangers. John Gray coming back. We want to talk starting pitching here?
Yeah,
because on paper, Astros have an advantage. Clearly. I mean, Justin Verlander is a mythical beast. Framber Valdez is a badass. Want to get to some shortcomings for him. Christian Javier looked good in the DS. Urquidy not so much. But their 1-2-3 is very solid. The Rangers are looking at Eovaldi or Monty in game 1. That hasn't been announced. Whoever pitches game 1, the other will pitch game 2. So that's their 1-2. I believe their 3 is going to be Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning in like a piggyback game.
Yeah.
I believe. And Dane Dunning's better to come out of the bullpen than Heaney there. Then if they get to a fourth option, if the Rangers need a fourth option, Scherzer's name's getting kicked around. John Gray, when the last time he threw an inning.
Yeah.
But these are better options than Cody Bradford. These are better options than... Honestly, Mitch Garver might pitch game 4.
Have him be a two-way guy. This is tough for me because like the Rangers, the ceiling on the Rangers rotation is so high because Eovaldi is just a dude, man. I mean, especially when you get to the postseason, he's so good. Montgomery's had that one excellent start. Wasn't great in the second game, but they did end up getting the win. But after that, like, you just don't know what you're gonna get out of Scherzer. You don't know what you're going to get out of Gray if he comes back. And for that reason, like, the advantage to me clearly is Houston here. Frommer's a badass. I do think there's something up with him. It has been really since his no-hitter. Something's kind of weird. But, you know, they have these guys that step up. Like Christian Javier is the biggest stud ever in October the last 2 seasons, kind of out of nowhere. That was a big start for them, you know, in game 3. Urquidy's been really good in October for them as well. It's very interesting. We came into the postseason wondering after game 2, what are we going to expect from this Astros rotation once, Verlander and Valdez are out? Well, we got that answer. Both those guys pitched great. But on the other end of it, like, if you get Scherzer back, and he does Mad Max shit where he's going 6 strong, well, then all of a sudden you might wonder, okay, does this favor the Rangers? John Gray was having an all right year before his injury. It's tough on Gray just because of, you know, who I know is healthy and what I've seen so far, and depth I think is very important here. You have to go Houston because that is the biggest thing that scares me is I trust Montgomery, I trust Eovaldi. Even I can't just run with the assumption Scherzer's going to come back and shove and Gray's going to come back and shove. I think rotational depth has been one of the huge reasons why the Astros have been so successful in October. I think that continues here, though, with that caveat of, like, who knows what could happen if Scherzer comes back strong.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big if.
Right.
That's such a big if. I don't even want to, like, I can't even acknowledge it. If Scherzer comes back, I mean, he probably wants to. This is a good starting point. He absolutely wants to be on the mound. So it's not like, you know, if you do get Scherzer, but then there's a risk because he could rush himself back on the mound. Scherzer definitely is going to look at that pitching staff and be like, Andrew, he blows. You guys want me. So a little bit of a risk area if Scherzer. If you see Scherzer pitching in this series, I would say that's not a good thing. I would say that's actually an awful thing for the Rangers.
Well, let me propose something. What if Bruce Bochy doesn't trust him to be a guy who's going to, you know, after a month and a half off, come back and give 6 innings? What if they make him a bullpen piece? Does that change how you feel about the dynamic of the series if he can be a guy who's only pitching 1-2 innings at a time?
If he comes out of the bullpen, he's going to say he wants to pitch like the 8th inning or the 9th. He's going to come back and he's like, yo, I'll just close for the postseason. And I wouldn't like that either.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't done it.
Not with this team. He's pitched out of the pen in the postseason before.
Okay. For the Dodgers in are you talking about when the Dodgers won the World Series?
Or 2 years ago. He did with the Nats a few times as well. But yeah, I mean,
it was shit rocked. He got his shit pumped by the Cubs in the 2017.
Yeah, I forgot about
I don't. Max Scherzer's a man who doesn't know his limits.
Fair.
Justin Verlander, on the other hand, knows no limits. I'll say that.
I like it.
Justin Verlander pitching game 1. The Rangers, obviously, this is such a beat up way to explain Justin Verlander in the playoffs, but you have your first time through the lineup to get to him.
Yeah.
If he's settled in and is locating his fastball at the top of the zone, spinning his breaking ball below it, and then throwing 2-seamers and 4-seamers to the inner and outer half, or inner and outer quarters, I should say, you're absolutely fucked.
Yeah. I mean,
So
go ahead.
The Rangers, that game one, the first, second inning of game one against Justin Verlander will be the most important 2 innings of the series, where you don't have, run around third and tie game. With taking circumstances out, I know there's going to be bases loaded, Aroldis Chapman's going to be pitching, and this will not apply.
Yeah, the thing about Verlander that I just want to know, and I agree with you. I mean, I've brought it up a million times. I mean, I'm the biggest Verlander stan in the world. About he plays with his food, gets off to these rough first few innings, pitch counts up, then all of a sudden it's 6-7 scoreless. I would argue, I feel bad for the Mets fans by saying this, Verlander missing that first month of the season might end up being the best thing that happened to him. Because I do think in the past in October, he's such an innings-eating machine, even at this point in his career, that I've seen him get to October, especially the World Series in the past, maybe break down just a little bit. The fact that he had that first month to kind of rehab and recover, he's pitching he's pitching the best baseball of the season right now. His last 3 outings, I believe, going back to the end of the regular season, 19 innings, 1 run allowed. It seems like he is ramping up for a really good postseason here. But you're right. I mean, we've seen in October in the past the tone be set by Verlander starts. I mean, he's just that important of a player. Where when Houston's been successful, like in the ALCS last year, or the ALCS in 2017, when he's coming out early and shoving, then all of a sudden it's game, set, match. If the Rangers can come out, score a few, put up a few crooked numbers early on, it not only changes how I feel about that game, it changes how I feel about the entire dynamic of the series. When you look at the history of October, not just in terms of Justin Verlander's teams, but in all teams, you punch another team's ace in the mouth, you're stealing games, and all of a sudden you're kind of talking about potentially making a move and winning series. Whoever ace gets knocked out first will be the team that probably ends up losing this series. I still don't see that being Verlander. I mean, I hate to break it down by series because it's a case-by-case basis, but Verlander in the ALCS, historically, pretty fucking good.
He's got a great team, too.
Correct.
And that's a huge point I want to make about Justin Verlander. Is it a huge point I want to make? Justin Verlander with a lead is just filthy and nasty because visually what he's doing, when I say pitch at the top of the zone, breaking balls underneath the zone, and then freezing you with those belt high, thigh high, outer, you're just staring at a 4-seam fastball that catches most of the strike zone box that we see on TV. And you're like, why doesn't he take the bat off his shoulder? And because he's doing more than just attacking you as a hitter. He's toying with you. He's giving you the illusion that there is something up in the zone that you can drive. And the Astros are such a good team. I bet most of his innings are pitched tighter with the lead. Very rarely is Justin Verlander taking the mound down 3-0. All right, give us another couple innings and we'll get the offense going. For the most part, you're chasing Justin Verlander. For the most part, he's in control and dictating how you feel when you get in the box. Well, his team is, I should say. And his stuff and profile and also the mastery of it allows him, if he gets a 2-run lead in October, you're fucked, dude. You're nervous? Good. You want to get a pitch up in the zone that you can drive? Good. It's the complete opposite of what you're going to get. The pitches up in the zone or out of the zone. You're going to swing and miss through them. Now, here's the only working against that, or working with that. Last year, Verlander with 6+ runs of support had like a 0.6 ERA. 3 to 5 runs of support had like a 1.5 ERA. 0 to 2 runs of support is where it's, like a 3-run ERA or whatever, where you're seeing those more stressful innings. This year it's been a little bit different. I know a lot of his 160 innings have been with the Mets. So the numbers are different though. With 6+ runs of support, they're flip-flopped. He's got like a 3.5 ERA this year. Now I could just be reading into a way too nuanced statistic here about, the very small sample size. But it could be representative of a decline in stuff. That's all I'm saying. It could be a small a small decline in when he does have the 5-run lead, he's not toying with hitters as much. Or maybe he's just getting older and saving his bullets. It's a beautiful game. I could talk I could talk to myself about this for 10 straight hours.
Well, me too, especially with Verlander. As somebody who's watched so many Verlander starts, I think you are right on both ends. I do think you're right about saving bullets. I also think he is very much aware of his own kind of baseball mortality, where he's just, with a few exceptions here or there, he's not the 8-9 inning guy anymore. He's fucking 40. The fact that he's lasted this long is incredible. I think in a lot of ways that kind of benefits him in October, where it's like, hey, you don't need to focus on giving us, your 8 innings, 120 pitches. Give us 95 pitches. Give us 6. We can turn it over to the pen. I think that actually might benefit him in the long term. But yeah, it's ironic that him and Scherzer are going up against each other, again here, because I've noticed that with both of them this year, where like their brains are Hall of Fame brains. They understand the game of baseball and the art of pitching better than anyone in this generation. But the stuff just a little bit, just a tick off the fastball, off-speed stuff maybe isn't biting as much as it was. But at the same time, their diminished stuff is better than 95% of every other pitcher in baseball. That's how good they are.
Yeah, they're just so far ahead.
Yeah.
Of knowing what is going to work to get you out. Because I don't want to complicate it too much, this pitch and sequencing, and you're just set up for, a lot of times you can just look at the hitter and be like, all right, if I can get this pitch at this situation, I'm going to get you inside. I'm going to get you upstairs. I'm going to get you down. I'm going to get you chasing. And those guys just have so much fucking experience. I don't draw a distinction between the two, though. If you said something mean about Justin Verlander, you would hurt his feelings. He would take it personally. If you said something mean about Max Scherzer, he would think you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Scherzer would be like, hey, this guy knows shit. And if you said it to Justin Verlander, would be in his head, did I do something wrong? I have to go get better. Truly two of the most unique psychopaths to take the mound since like Clemens is throwing at guys' head.
Mm-hmm. I really like that comparison. I think it's one of the reasons why maybe in the early part of their career, they didn't get along super well. But I think you bringing that up about Verlander is an excellent point, because he's been open about the fact that he felt like his stuff was diminishing. He felt like he was doing something wrong, and it was the Astros analytics department that really helped turn things around. The second he got to Houston, fixed his slider. Fastball didn't see an uptick in velocity, but it saw an uptick in spin rate. He basically ditched, I believe, his two-seamer for a while. Those were... I think that his adjustment and his ability to understand his own aging process and his own body has allowed him to have this not just second wind but third wind in his career, where Scherzer just pitches angry. I mean, and that's always been us. He's frothing at the mouth. He's attacking guys. These guys are strike throwing machines, and I think that's why they've been able to last as long as they have. They don't fuck around when guys come to the dish.
And when you talk adjustments, and it's like a good closing point for where my head's at with the pitching staff, because it goes to Monty and Framber Valdez. You should talk a little Eovaldi, though, because he was banged up down the stretch. He was electric at the start of the season. Cy Young stuff. I think he got some Cy Young votes for us in the first half. Now he's pitching like it. I think he surrendered 2 earned runs in almost 14 innings. 7 innings, 6 2/3. No walks, 15 strikeouts. So 98 pitches in both starts, 70 game score, 66 game score.
Yeah.
Before that, 25, 39, 47. So all 3 last starts were below average, 2 of which well below average. So a lot of questions for Eovaldi coming in. Honestly, same thing with Abreu. I'm looking at the guy who made those last 2 starts. I don't give a shit what he did in September, August, how his hamstring's back, whatever. Like when Eovaldi takes him out, I'm looking, it's the best version of Eovaldi is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, especially that Baltimore start where I know it sounds weird to put it this way, but there are pitchers who do get into some trouble when they have big leads. It's kind of bizarre where it seems like they take their foot off the gas. He was just, everything was working for him. I'm with you. There are guys who are just capable of turning it on. I think that those final few starts he had in September are proving to be more outliers than anything else. The discrepancy, and he's a very good regular season pitcher, but the discrepancy between who he is in the regular season and who he is in October, his stuff just plays. I mean, he's just shoving fastballs right by people. He's got that cutter that can play away, that can, backdoor people, and he's got that nasty splitty as well. I'm with you. I would be very surprised if we get September Eovaldi in this ALCS. I think Astros and their fans should come into this expecting you're going to get the Eovaldi that we've gotten in October, dating back to when he was with the Red Sox in 2018. Love the dude.
He's such a great story of the high school draft, got to the big leagues quickly with the Dodgers. Been in the big league since 2011. He got drafted in 2007, 2008.
Jeez. A lot of injuries early on.
So much stuff. I mean, a guy who's like literally way too talented to pitch a AAA against polished bats because his stuff's so electric. Truly a guy who's had to develop his entire career at the major league level, but has been so good that teams have allowed him to develop at the major league level. Rare, very rare to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Valdez, on the other hand, where I said when I see Eovaldi take the mound, I'm getting what I expect from Eovaldi, or I'm expecting greatness. I'm expecting the best that Eovaldi has to offer. Valdez, I got a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
I probably have a bigger question mark for Framber Valdez than I do against Montgomery.
Yes.
And that's because I saw the sinker get flat. His sinker gets flat. And if you haven't thrown a baseball before, you're not familiar with the concept of sinking a ball. Imagine if you were pouring out a beer can or you were pouring out a Pepsi or something, and you have to turn your wrist to pour it out. Now, take that same action if you're going to combine that with throwing a baseball. As you're throwing the ball, you're just going to like turn the beer. You're just like pouring a beer out as you're throwing it a little bit. And it's obviously an extremely difficult thing to master. Once you get the feel, though, you have the feel. You get the feel. Framber Valdez could go 10 starts without not having that feel in the bullpen. And a lot of sinker ballers would say extended rest hurts. You want your arm loose. It's like a golf swing. It's like shooting free throws. Maybe not riding a bike. But it's an action that requires tons of repeatability and consistency. When it's on and you're grooving, you are on top of the world and you feel unhittable. When you can't find it, all you want to do is get it back on the next pitch. Mm-hmm. And that push and pull, like a Chinese finger trap, like if you're really trying to get it, that's where the ball flattens out. If you're really trying to add velocity to your sinker, the ball's going to flatten out, meaning you can't repeat. Like if your great sinker is 94, 95 down in the zone, that's it. There's no 97. You cannot climb to 98, 99 with this pitch. Because then the spin efficiency and all that shit fucks with the ball. And more specifically, flattens out. It does not have the same downward horizontal, which you know what that means? It means it finds the barrel. And so that's why you see great heavy sinker ballers. They don't have a lot of starts. I mean, Derek Lowe comes to mind. 7 innings, 3 runs, 4 runs. 6 innings, 3 runs, 4. It's either like masterful or get this guy off the mound.
Or they get rocked, yeah.
So that's I'm with Framber Valdez. I would load up as many righties as I can, in the first 5, 6. Obviously, Seager's got to hit there somewhere. And I am trying to get as many, there's an emphasis to getting pressure, guys on the bases. Where Verlander, there's an emphasis on you want to see the ball up, you want to drive him. You want to drive him off the mound. You can let Valdez pitch himself off the mound. I know that's really vague and nuanced, but you have to attack Verlander. You have to punch back. He's coming at you with 98 up in the zone. You have to be ready to drive him all over the park. Valdez, I think you just got to wait for a couple mistakes early, and you got to hammer them when they come.
Mm-hmm. I from what I've noticed from Framber in the last few months is a lot of nibbling, and I think there might not be one specific thing that you can point to, but including postseason over the last 2 years, we're talking about a guy who's pitched 428 2/3 innings. I think that it's just, to a certain extent, the body just probably isn't what it was, because he was a horse in October last year. And I'm with you. Watching that Twins start, those ground balls, which, he has an absurdly high ground ball rate over the last few years, have turned into line drive. So his stuff is still excellent, but ultimately, as good as the curveball is and the cutter and the changeup, his primary, he's a sinker ball pitcher. Now, he's capable of missing bats and striking guys out, but that pitch just is not moving to me the way that I saw it move you're going, and I think you're correct about that. That it's more so a matter of being patient. With a guy like Verlander, you know you're going to see a ton of strikes, and you know you're going to see a guy who's going to mix speeds really well. Valdez is capable of doing that also, but I think with that sinker's value being diminished over the last several months, I think we're going to start seeing more and more guys sit on it. And ultimately, I think his command has lessened a little bit too. I mean, his control over the last few years has been fantastic. Again, I feel like we found him nibbling. I think a big reason for that is he's not trusting his stuff the way that he was in the early part of the campaign. That could get him into trouble. At the same time, though, a week off now, plus probably in between starts, could do him some good. If that's the case, and they get a good version of Frommer, he's not incapable of pitching great ball. Then he could be in a better spot. But I do kind of agree with you. Of the 4 pitchers the Astros have, this is so bizarre because I love the guy. Of the 4 pitchers the Astros have going in this rotation, he's the one I actually trust the least right now, just because I don't think he's completely right.
Yeah, something's off for sure.
Yeah.
Big pitch count this year, too.
Mm-hmm.
Made 31 starts, threw almost 200 innings. Huge pitch count.
Oh, no, Dusty sticks with him a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Dusty will do that. Dusty will do that to his starting pitchers. Yeah, Framber, if he's pitching in the 7th inning, you're losing. You've lost the game. Yeah. You have to get him in the 5th. You have to get him in the 4th. You have to get him in the 5th. I think the Rangers can do it. I think if they drop game 1, I am hammering the Rangers in game 2. And I think if the Rangers win game 1, then I'm taking the Astros in game 2. And it's a clear split. I would imagine both of these games in this entire series to be played extremely closely.
I'm with you. I think that what we're getting right now, we are getting an Astros team that is showing themselves to be Houston, which is who they are. They are an established bunch. They are an experienced bunch. But the Rangers team that has shown up in October is the Rangers team that we lauded and had high up in our power rankings in June and July. I think that you bring it up with Eovaldi. I would argue the team as a whole has reverted back to where they were in the middle part of the season when they were a juggernaut. Both these teams are better than their record. Both these teams don't like the other side. This is a juicy series, man. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I have an idea about the NLCS. I guess I have an idea about this one, but there's a million different ways to me that I could see this thing going.
I see this as a much better series than the NLCS on paper before it starts.
Yeah, no disagreement there. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
The Diamondbacks have a couple cute stories, and it's fun. It's great. They're new and fresh. That's great. And the Phillies are awesome. The Phillies are the coolest team in baseball, coolest team in sports right now. This is very strategic. The ALCS has so many undertones and big stories here in the battle for Texas. I was calling the battle for Texas out years when they signed these guys. I'm like, the Rangers aren't the Rangers aren't taking it from the Astros anymore. Like, there's a very long period of time there for Rangers fans of nothing but bleak desperation. No hope. Your world sucks. Like, even the A's going to the playoffs in COVID and having a good team, taking a series from the White Sox. I mean, like, the Rangers had, like, nothing to stand on. And then the new ballpark, little bit of momentum, go sign a couple guys. They still have some good prospects coming, too. Like, this is just the beginning for the Rangers. And it was a very intentional move on the organization to go compete against the Astros. And I think it's like market share too. I think there's like business interest here. Like, the Rangers were just losing the state of Texas to the Astros for like the better part of a decade. The Astros were Texas's team. So I'm really, as a baseball fan, drawn to this this. I hate saying it's so lame, but like, it is like a battle for Texas in Major League Baseball right now. Are those lines decided? Are those, like, I'm sure it's still blossoming.
Yeah, and I don't see either. I think this is going to be something that's going to grow too, because I don't see either one of these teams going anywhere. Like, I think this is step one of, I think, what's going to end up being a really fun rivalry for the next 3-4 years.
This is the Barstool Baseball Show. This is the ALCS preview. It's Carl. It's Castellani. We're going to be back. I'm posting this. This is Friday night. I hope it really is a safe, fun Friday night. And on Saturday morning, we will have an NLCS preview for you guys. We're also going to come back on Monday for the power rankings after we've had a chance to watch some of the championship series. I've wanted to do a 4-man, 4-team power ranking all year long.
Yeah.
That'll be our 29th power ranking show too. So World Series will make it 30.
Oh,
good,
cool.
even. Yeah, good, even, solid number. You guys can subscribe to this on YouTube. And when I say you guys can, I'm saying you guys go over to YouTube right now and hit subscribe. Not asking you, I'm telling you. Seriously, go over to YouTube. And I mean it. Go hit subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you.